We continue with our Theology of the Body Mondays, and so far we've talked about how the theology of the body is the study of God as revealed through our bodies. And then we also began to talk about the sacramentality of the body, this concept kind of coined by John Paul II, the sacramentality of the body, which kind of, he's alluding to the fact that the body makes visible an invisible truth about who we are. So the body of the human person makes visible something invisible about who we are. And this is this reality that we're made for union, right? We talked about being made in the image and likeness of the Holy Trinity, how we have these desires for union. But this reality that we're made for union and for love is even stamped into our very body. Our body is made visible, something invisible about what it means to be human, and how this actually ultimately not only points us to human friendships, but to the fact that we were made for union with God. We were made for heaven, eternal union with Him. Now, in wanting to understand who we are even in a deeper way, John Paul II continues to kind of reflect upon Adam and Eve in the book of Genesis. And one of the things that he notes when he kind of looks at what's going on there in the creation accounts is that Adam and Eve are naked, and yet they experience no shame. You may recall this, how it's only after the fall that they realize they were naked. They tell God, and then they're covering their bodies and stuff. So he also coins a term for this kind of nakedness without shame, and he calls it original innocence. So an original innocence that was experienced by Adam and Eve, and really by the human person when we were originally created. Now, this word innocence, I think nowadays the word innocence tends to be used in a negative way, like, yeah, he's kind of innocent, or she's kind of innocent. So it's like a naivete or being ignorant about something. But this is not the way in which John Paul II uses the word innocence. He uses it in a positive light, in the sense of purity. Maybe the beautiful innocence of a child who maybe sees things, again, not in naivete, but just with a simplicity and purity of heart. So he kind of says that Adam and Eve had this original innocence that allowed them to see each other with great purity. And so when Adam looked at Eve, right, even for the first time, this at last, right, is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh, and he saw the beauty of her body, he was drawn to the beauty of her body, but in a very pure way. So there was no sense in which he wanted to use her for his own kind of just gain or something. He saw her with complete purity. And so Eve, in seeing this pure gaze, right, feels no need to cover her body. She doesn't experience any shame because she doesn't experience that she's going to be used even just by the gaze of Adam. And also vice versa, right? Because of this original innocence, this purity of heart, and both of them, they can be, naked without shame. And shame only enters the world after the fall, when perhaps Eve sees in the eyes of Adam, and vice versa, this different kind of look towards their own body. And so it's almost like a self-protective thing, like I gotta cover my body because otherwise I will be used, or I will be lusted after. And so one of the things that St. John Paul II is alluding to in all of this is the goodness of the body, right? The body was made good, and the body is good, and it is really just after sin enters the world that is perhaps using, and really that's an issue with the heart, not with the body, that kind of enters. In fact, there's kind of this interesting story. You may be familiar with the Sistine Chapel, right? And the Vatican is that famous painting of the Sistine Chapel, or a portion of it is where there's like God stretching out his kind of hand, and then Adam stretching out his hand, the fingers are about to touch, right? And Adam is naked. But apparently originally when Michelangelo, who was painting this beautiful chapel, was painting, he was asked to cover a lot of the body parts of the people he was painting, and he just refused. He said, no, I'm not going to do that. And so after he finished painting, they had to bring other painters to do that. And because there's too much body here, nakedness in a chapel, this is not worthy of a chapel. And so that's what happened. But then when John Paul II became Pope, he ordered to have some artists brought in to use special chemicals to remove all of that and to just show the original painting, because he was kind of, again, wanting to show that there's a goodness to the body, right? And if there's a shame involved, it really has to do with the heart. He was kind of saying it was more, it's not the paintings themselves, it was the people who couldn't perhaps look with purity towards these paintings, and they were like scandalized by them. We're going to talk more about that, because there's also a goodness to shame, actually, and we do need to cover our bodies, etc. And we'll see why nowadays, because of the fall. But again, John Paul II is trying to really emphasize the goodness of how we were made bodily, and the goodness of our body. And I mean, God Himself says, right, he saw this thing and He called it good, and then for the human person, very good, right? And so we're made good. We'll continue next week.